And of course, there'll be many more sessions we will do in 2023, but this is a great time for us to sync with you all, answer your remaining questions, and to really prepare for 2023 in a big way. The starting and ending message for this AMA is that we have everything lined up for a great year coming up. And I'm convinced that we will have a great year in every metric that matters. So as I answer your question, you will hear that thought process repeat itself, that in my opinion, everything that needs to be in place is in place for a fantastic next year. And it wasn't easy, it never is, but it is really good to be here. I'm really glad that we are where we are. So let's begin. So this is the final AMA for 2022 on December 29th, and I welcome you all to this session. And this is Pradeep Goel, and let's get started. So first, and these questions are gathered by the community with the community admins. So I'm going to be looking at them for the first time with you. And I think that there are quite a few questions. I'm told over 20 questions here. So we'll go through them. But if you feel like there is questions that haven't been answered, send them in. And of course, we'll do more AMAs coming up. But I believe that this list covers everything that has been asked. So let's begin with the first question. The most important products in the platform are the protocol, wallet, and token. What several powerful features and enhancements do you envisage that should be added to them to make them the most powerful protocol, wallet, and token in the world that the world has ever and will ever see, and also to give them worldwide massive utility and massive global adoption? Well, whoever wrote this question, I would like you to come and work in our product delivery team, because you absolutely have nailed it. And I share the same exact sentiment that what we have built with the protocol, wallet, and token, and we will continue to enhance, is truly the greatest platform the world has ever seen when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to truly empowering patient and provider. So let's jump into your question. What several powerful features and enhancements do you envisage? So let's break it down into three fundamental reasons why Care Wallet, Care Protocol, and Solve Token exist, and what we can do to make them truly the worldwide adoption and worldwide utility. The first is authorability of a network 100% in the protocol. Today, the protocol defines a very large percentage of the network. All the network parameters are defined in the protocol. The network roles, network relationships, care journeys, care cards are defined in the protocol. So I would say that today, the protocol is about 70% of everything that could be defined. So the first thing we got to do, and forever, is to enhance the protocol to capture more of the network parameters, so that the more powerful the protocol is, the more powerful the network is. But the network to be powerful should not require coding. If we are going to build a truly decentralized care network, which is exactly what the protocol lets you do with the wallet, then the more powerful that care network is, the more adoption we're going to see in more different use cases. So in the ideal world, the protocol will let you define everything about the network. What does that mean? Well, for example, what if I'm launching a network in Singapore, subject to Singapore regulation, and the Singapore regulation for patient and doctor should be fully encapsulated in the protocol in terms of the type of events, the type of data, the type of consent, the type of transactions, the type of monetization, the type of sharing, delegation, everything that would allow this care network to be authored for Singapore patients and doctors should be authorable in the care protocol. Today, I would say that we can author in the really complex care network scenario, 70% of the network is protocol. The remaining 30% is handled through event handlers. My job and Raj's job and James's job Michael's job, and these are our chief architect or chief technology officer and our chief product manager, is to make this protocol 100% configurable. And that's an ideal. We will never really achieve that. It's like the Fourier series where you never get to, it's an infinite series. You will always have a variation between what we want and what we have. Whether that variation is 30% today or 0.00003% in the future, those curves will always merge but never intersect because you'll always want to do more. But the closer we get the protocol authorability to the network's configurability, desired configurability, the more adoption we're going to see worldwide. In my view, 70% authorability, and this is an arbitrary number. This is my personal opinion. Raj might say we're 83% authorable. He wouldn't be wrong. This would be just a different perspective. But in my mind, where we are, we can author simple to medium complexity networks without writing much of any code. And the really complex networks require coding. So in my world, that really complex network should be authorable. So if you were to create a 2023 goal for the protocol, it would be to allow for complete authorability through the protocol of a complex network that can be fully demonstrated to be compliant with a country's very specific rules of data consent, monetization, use of data, permissions, transactions and roles and liability. All that would be done in the protocol. And we would be able to author that protocol without having to write a single custom event handler. That is where we get to even greater utility than we can achieve today. So this is the curve. We got to have, we were very high on the effort level when we were doing the first 5 networks. We have brought the network down enormously from needing months to do a network to doing weeks to launch a network. So that's a huge improvement. But if we can keep bringing that trend line down to where even complex networks can be done in days and weeks, we will own the market. And that's exactly what we're doing. So this is the protocol side. Specifically in the protocol, to get deeper into that, we need to look at data pinning. We need to allow for data to be pinned to specific care nodes. We need to allow for configurability in the protocol level of both macro parameters, which we already do, but more macro parameters, such as, does this network allow for only one type of Solve token redemption, deposit value or market value, or does it allow hybrid? Today, you have to choose one. You can do, at the network level, you have to define, is this network a deposit value network or a market value redemption network? You have 2 choices, but you have to pick one. In the future, we could envision a protocol where we could define that at a role relationship level, which will make it very complex, very powerful, but only 1% of the networks in the world on our platform will probably need that feature. But those are going to be the big networks, the really tough ones. So in that regard, do we need that feature today to go to market and build our first 10 networks? We don't. We don't need this level of granularity where we can define the redemption model at the role relationship level, because at the network level works. And vast majority of networks don't need a hybrid model. In fact, I don't know of any network today that needs hybrid, but I can envision networks coming down the road where that kind of configurability will be appropriate, and we will do that. So that's protocol. There are many other examples of the protocol, but then we'll spend 3 hours just on the protocol. So I think you get the idea. Let's talk about the wallet. So wallet has jumped light years from where we were at the beginning of the year to where we are ending. We have now an extraordinary user experience that nobody has ever built for healthcare. And when we launch that in the coming few days, I think you will agree with me that this is a completely different paradigm. No different than when Apple launched an iOS and a operating system based on a card deck system. We are launching an iOS for healthcare, and the wallet is a centerpiece of that. And in that regard, the wallet has come a long way. So wallet is doing much better. It has now support for different languages like Korean, but that's not the key point. The key point is localization ability, not that we have supported one more language, but the fact that we can support any language now. But where does the wallet go from here? First thing that comes to my mind, and I'm pushing on the team to do this into the 2023 roadmap, is the extensibility of the wallet by third parties. What does that mean? So we want the wallet to be open enough for third parties to be able to inject data into the wallet while complying with the rules of injection. For example, let's say that some great company in Korea has built a new ring, and that ring is FDA or equivalent approved. And now that ring manufacturer wants to be able to push that ring parameters as a Care data card into the Care wallet. We need to give them the APIs and the SDKs to be able to generate the Care data card and to send the Care data card to the wallet in a manner that would be authenticated sender. The Care data card through the API would be logged into the vault. The Care data event will be logged into the ledger, and we would have the ability to pin that event and handle that in normal care journey so that such an event coming in could trigger an automatic response to the doctor, letting him know that Pradeep's reading just now was off the charts, you got to bring him in. Things like that can be fully automated in care journeys and already are. So the API for Care Wallet is important, really important. The second enhancement to the Care Wallet that I expect to see next year is I want to see more gamification of cards. So today cards are beautiful in that they are grandmother friendly, they're very powerful. Card as an object class has grown quite a bit, will continue to grow. The card object class is continuing to be a huge focus of the company in making that card object class more powerful and more derivative in the sense as an object-oriented card system. We want the object class to be so powerful that you can derive any kind of card from that object class, and you never have to write a line of code. For example, if you need to derive an appointment card, or if you need to derive a prescription card, you need to derive a how are you feeling today card, you need to derive any kind of a custom card that you want to build, you simply derive it from the base object class by configuring a new card instance in the Care protocol. That's the whole principle of the protocol defined cards. But the more powerful the base object class is, the better. So what if we could introduce in the base object class things like multiple dimensions? We just did. You will see that soon. What if we could make the base object class have more strengthened auditability? Or what if we could allow the base object class to allow for data to be marked public or private without having to do any coding? So the object class needs to be enhanced. Again, it's one of those things where we will be always enhancing the base Care card object class for years and years to come. What we have today is fantastic, meets the need of most every network we want to author, including the GTHE network that I'm keen to get started on the protocol, and Definitize, and many others. So the base object class today is quite good, but for it to be truly a world adoption, localization, gamification, and more configurability of the base object class through the protocol would be really important. What does that mean in the end? What it means is that grandma can download the Care wallet and experience different care networks that she wants to join in a way that's very personalized. So if we allow in the base object class things like avatars, if we allow for automatic personalization by age or gender, certainly by language, and if we allow for the base object class to reconfigure itself and its user experience based on user preferences, so then we start to create a uniquely personal experience in the wallet for 3 people who join the same network, look at the same care card, they will have slightly different user experience based on whether you're male or female, young or old, and based on what their language preferences are or any other preferences they set. So this configurability, the personalization of healthcare cards through the configurable parameters of user preference, the network preference, the wallet location, those variables, the real-time variables, rendering to me a very unique personalized experience is something that we will continue to enhance and enhance and enhance. It's good what we have today. In fact, it's great, but I want it to be much, much more. And the 3 areas are going to be personalization of experience, personalization and visualization of data, and gamification of the experience as needed. Now let's talk about the token, the third part of this question. For token to be more adopted and to be a global utility, the token needs to be programmable, and the programmability of the token is in the card. So as we link the token to the card and we make the cards more powerful, as the base object class becomes more powerful, the token becomes easier and easier to enrich with value, because the logic, the programmability of healthcare payment is the hard part. Healthcare payments are bloody complicated. They're just complex. And even if you think they're simple, behind the scenes, there are many parties involved, and they require coordination, collaboration, and cost and responsibility sharing, and auditability, and risk mitigation, and 100 reasons why healthcare payments are so complicated. Some of it we just made complex because IT systems are horrible, and Solve.Care platform changes that complexity by just getting rid of it. But some of the complexity is structural, meaning who's responsible for what and who's responsible to pay how much. So the programmability of Solve.Care token is really important. But the way we are making that happen is by attaching the Solve token to a care card, where the card controls the behavior of the token. And in doing so, we can make the token really more powerful. But specifically on the token, what we are looking for is more wrapping. So I want to support the Solve token next year with multiple wrappers, multiple protocol wrappers that add specific value. Now, when we talk about the two redemption models that I've described in the past, one being the fixed value, the deposit value redemption, the other being the market value, there is wrapping involved, because you have to wrap the Solve token that was deposited into effectively a stable coin wrapper, so that by the time when this wrapper is unwrapped, the value of delivered to the receiver is fixed to the value that was deposited by the payer at the point of payment. So that wrapping already happens, but we need to make it much more. And we need to wrap that not just with pSolve, which is our wrapper, but also with variety of other tokens that are deemed to be stable coins. So I think what you will see, I know what you will see, is that Solve will be wrapped into a variety of stablecoin wrappers to allow for that deposit value redemption to become easier and cheaper. Beyond that, Solve is in great shape. Now, Solve is already far exceeds anything that the market has ever seen in terms of the configurability and programmability. So I think we are good there. So that's my answer on protocol, wallet, and token. Let's move to the next question, but thank you for this great question. And I'm sure there'll be 10 more questions based on what I've just given you today. You probably will come back and say, what does this mean? What does that mean? Perfect. Come back to us and we'll answer. But this topic alone is a 3-hour-long topic at any given day. So let me stop here by having given you a pretty broad answer to how the wallet, protocol, and token need to be enhanced to become the #1 token, the #1 wallet, the #1 protocol for healthcare. And I think we are already there, but we can make it better, and we will next year. Okay. Let's read this question. What are the current, not they, I think they mean what are the current skills, codes, programming requirements, and qualifications needed for someone to be able to author networks using Care Labs? And also, when will it be possible for the platform be fully open source? Also so easy that anybody, even grandma, can be able to author care cards, protocols, and journeys to use or sell or monetize them. So there are many questions in here. Let's break it apart. So what are the current skills, codes, and programming requirements and qualifications to author care networks using Care Labs? So in our world right now, we have a team of 2 or 3 people who author a network. And this is what we tell our clients as well. One of them is someone who knows the business of the client. So that's really more of a business analyst or an operations analyst or a doctor or a pharmacist, preferably a client-facing function or role entity who understands what the client is trying to do. Now, today, that role is played by Ahmed or by other members of the team. They're not so much writing code, but they're imagining journeys. So we have this wonderful tool called Care Journey Board, and we have a wonderful tool called Care Journey Book, and we have a wonderful process called Care Journey Workshop. So these workshops are conducted with the doctors or the nurses or combination dietitian, endocrinologist, oncologist, hospital administrator, CIO, CTO, doesn't matter who we have on the other side. In that workshop, we walk through the Care Journey workbook and we draw the journeys on the Care Journey board. And it's really fun exercise. And you use colored markers and you play a bit. You get to be a kid again. And if you don't like something, you erase and you redraw, because our Care Journey boards are laminated playgrounds, imaginariums, as we call them. So Care Journey boards, Care Journey workbooks are filled by people who understand the patient-doctor relationship. So it's either a patient representative or a doctor representative who is sitting with us and doing that. And they can do it themselves, but people like to do this together because it's fun, more enjoyable. And we like to do it with the client because it gives us insights into what they want to do. But anybody in the community can do that. So you could, and we'll talk about the Care Labs training in a few minutes, but you will and you can, with your innate intelligence and interest in healthcare, run the workshop, fill out the Care Journey workbook, and do the Care Journey board drawings. You'll be perfectly fine to do that. It doesn't require a specialized skill. It just requires the willingness to sit and listen and work with the client, or be the client yourself if you're a doctor. And we have seen doctors and even senior doctors take the Care Journey board and draw their own journeys and say, I want this. This is what I want it to look like. And we've authored that for them. And then there is a care protocol author, and that's typically an analyst who has gone through Care Labs training and knows how to author the care protocol. The Care Labs generates a care protocol, but it doesn't finish the protocol. You have to go into the protocol and enhance it. Now, in the next version of Care Labs, you can do more, but regardless, you'll always have to author the protocol. At least for the next 6 months to a year, you will need to learn to author the Care Labs, the care protocol file. And that is done by people who have gone through training. What is their background? Their background is, again, business analyst or an operations analyst or someone who has an interest in, has some structured mindset. So you're talking about an analyst who has learned how to edit the protocol. Again, any of you can learn to do that. There is nothing fancy about it. It's just something you need to understand: the hierarchy, the network, the roles, the relationships, the journeys, the cards, the tiles, the events. It's just a hierarchy. And once you understand the hierarchy, you can go change anything. And once you change anything, immediately it appears in the wallet as a different card or a different journey. So that's an operations/business analyst. Now, just to put things in perspective, my executive assistant, Victoria, decided to design a How Are You Feeling Today care journey by herself. We were at a developer summit 2 weeks ago, and she was listening in on these meetings, and she said, hey, why don't I do a journey myself? Now, of course, Victoria's background originally is financial analyst, but she's not a programmer. She'd never done any kind of programming. But within the span of a day or two, she learned how to author the care card, link and create the right care tiles, make it look beautiful, publish the card, test it in the wallet, add a few more cards, create a journey. But the point here being that it took her from zero IT background, zero development experience, to authoring cards, span of 72 hours. And she did that because she wanted to. And we were very excited to see her do that, because to me, that represents the same mindset as a doctor, in that I want to do something. Can I use a Solve.Care platform to make my idea reality in the form of a card or a journey in the wallet? So that's the second point. Now, the third role here is the event handler writer. So we have a library of event handlers, and they cover almost everything you can think of, like sending a card, receiving a card, making a card public, making a card private, delegating it, removing delegation. All those handlers are already there. And more are getting written by the team and published into the library. But there will come a time, and there does come a time, where you need to custom write the event handler. For that, today we have to have a developer who writes the custom handlers, somebody who knows JavaScript or Java or both. But the event handlers get into where we need to have a developer type background. But we're not looking for a back-end developer with extreme J2EE background. We're talking about basically a script writer who can write JavaScript or something equivalent to that. So that's effectively where the team lies. Basically, it's a two-person team, person that documents with the client the journeys and authors them through the labs. And then there's a person who writes the event handlers if they are needed. But typically in a network, you don't need a lot of custom event handlers. So typically, using all the event handlers we already have, you may need to write one or two out of dozens of event handlers that you need. The rest are already in the library. So in a nutshell, today, it takes a team and a protocol author and an event handler developer to finish a network. As we look ahead, the goal is to reduce the requirement for the event handler developer as close to zero as possible. It'll never go to zero, but majority of the networks we should be able to launch without having to write a custom event handler. And when we do have to write a custom event handler, our goal is to make it more declarative and not so much as coded. So that journey is, I think, a 2023 process that we have to go through. But either way, all the 10 networks that we are looking to launch in the first half of or in the 2023, starting immediately after the holidays to start authoring networks, vast majority we will do without needing to write custom handlers. But if they are needed, it's only a matter of a couple of days to get one done. Now, second part of the question, when will the platform be fully open sourced? So this is a big question. If you're saying when can anybody author a care card or a care journey or a care network in its entirety, then that's already on its way. And you can do that today. You can go into Care Labs and start authoring a new care network. What is missing is the training program. So what we are working on right now is developing the Care Labs training program. And the Care Labs Academy is where we need to be able to train everybody on how to use the labs fully, not just the current version, but the new version of labs that's being worked on, how to edit the care protocol by hand if need be, and even how to write an event handler if need be. So those training is the real blocker here, because the platform is already there where Solve.Care can launch network within weeks. It's already moved miles and miles and miles from where it was a year ago. So it's not that it can be done, it's just that there are not enough people trained to do it. So the focus needs to be on open training. And we are focused on bringing in the training program for all of you to use, to participate in. And we have created a training structure, which includes the introductory courses, the authoring courses, the development courses, and even the integration course level courses. So different levels of certification. And that program, as we launch in 2023, will allow the community to do what you're saying. The third part of this question is, when can grandma be able to author care cards? In my opinion, grandma can author care cards today, but she probably won't. Because what you need for grandma to be able to build really cool cards that she actually wants to author to serve some real purpose requires more gamification and more visualization and more personalization of data. Today, the phase of the current version, the current phase of the platform is allowing doctors to author their cards and journeys. We are there. But to get the consumer to author the card and journeys themselves, I think we're going to see more closer towards the end of the year, because there is no use case right now where grandma authoring her own cards and sending it to the doctor would be acceptable to the doctor in the truest sense, because you don't want to just start receiving random cards from patients without knowing what to do with them. So I think where grandma's ability to author a card comes into play is more peer-to-peer. When grandma wants to communicate with her friends or with her family or with her colleagues or with her church or with her community. And in that model, it's more appropriate to let grandma author cards in the context of a care circle, because care journeys are structured to solve a specific problem. Ad hoc cards built by consumers are meant to be communicated inside the care circle, not as part of a care journey. So my vision for consumer authored cards are that those cards live in the care circle versus professionally authored care cards and journeys live in the ABC, ABCD role environment. But when we are talking about consumer authoring their own cards, then they have to largely use those cards for communicating inside their care circle. And that's where we will get to in 2023 as well. So if you look at it this way, you have institutionally authored care networks, you have physician authored care networks, and then you have consumer authored care cards and journeys inside the care circle, which is their private care network. That's the hierarchy of networks that we are going to permit. Because anything more than that will not work from a institutional or clinical perspective. So institutional networks like the ones we are authoring for large hospitals right now, physician authored networks that we are starting to get into early next year, and then consumer authored cards and journeys inside the context of a care circle. These are all achievable. Most of them are achievable today, but I think in 2023 we'll make them a lot more achievable. Then we bring to the last question, selling and monetizing data. So I talked about base care card class being enhanced, and that's where the selling and monetization comes into play. So the concept of the platform where we can allow someone to sell or monetize their data is more about ascribing value to data and requiring the other party to pay for that value, right? So there are many parts to this. One is setting the price. Second is collecting the payment. Third is sharing the data. Fourth is auditing the data for its proper use. And fifth, potentially is revoking the use of data if your agreement and regulation permits this. And last but not the least is to ensure that the data is correct and accurate, whatever is being shared. So all of that capability of managing data, from pricing it, sharing it, consenting for its sharing, revoking the consent, auditing the use, those are all done at the care card level. And as I talked about the base care card being enhanced, we can do that. The second side of that coin is to allow a care marketplace type of a network where patients can actually monetize their data. They can both subscribe to and publish data in the context of a relationship with a buyer or a seller. So that care marketplace is a care network, a specific type of a care network where we can allow for this kind of a care data marketplace versus a care device marketplace versus a care protocol marketplace. So this care marketplace concept, which has been around for 5 years now, and we've tried to build it in many different avatars, and we came to realize that unless it's a non-protocol network, it's a dead end. So now we are at a point where we can launch and enhance care marketplace as an on-protocol network, where we can offer both consumer assets as well as third-party assets, as well as physician assets, as well as developer assets for buying and selling by interested parties, right? Because different buyer, different seller, but in the end, it's an A-B relationship. A is selling something, B wants to buy that. They had to transact in the care wallet, send in the form of a care card, the request for payment, get the payment, and receive rights to use whatever object or product they have bought. So that's part of the care marketplace, care network that we are talking about. So all of this, in my mind, that you've said here is either already done or is very much doable in the next 12 months. Medical data is the new gold. So what are the benefits of users having their medical data in the platform and the ways they can monetize and profit? Well, the first thing is that you got to have control over your data. So the platform or the wallet gives you control over your data, so others aren't using it without your permission. The second is you need to be able to publish and subscribe to data in the context of somebody wanting to use your data and you wanting to show them your data, which is now done in the form of care cards and the multidimensional card that you will hear about very soon. And in terms of profitability, that's very much a function of the care network design. So if I'm a pharmaceutical company and I want to run a care network for clinical trials, then my network design might say, look, Pradeep, if you submit 100 readings from your oximeter and your glucose meter over the next 90 days, or 180 readings over the next 90 days, and you follow this regimen of care data card, and the prescription for data is filled completely, we'll send you 10,000 Solve tokens. That's perfectly valid. And by the way, the consent is another care card. Your demographic is just another care card. Send me this, these cards from your profile, and we'll register you, enroll you in a single click, and you are in the study, and you can earn tokens as you complete the data prescription. Easy peasy, no big deal at all. You could do that today in the platform. The point being that our client, the pharma, has to decide that they what kind of payment they want to give to the patient. From a patient perspective, having control over your data, having extended chain of custody, where just because you share your data with somebody doesn't mean they can share it with somebody else. Those kind of really powerful concepts built into the wallet makes your data worth something. Because if your data is loosely controlled, then the moment you share it, you no longer own it. And if you no longer own it, nobody's going to pay you for it. So one of the biggest things that we have done in the platform is to build this concept of chain of custody, which allows you to share data but not lose control over it. And that extended chain of custody, where data goes from wallet A to wallet B, but still has control over what wallet B can do, is really powerful. And that's how monetization can actually work. Without that control, monetization cannot work. So long and short of it is that we've already built in the platform the ability to create data monetization care networks. You can do that today. We have built into the platform the extended chain of custody between wallets. You can do that today. So now it's really what needs to happen next is for us to identify opportunities in the market where the clients want to buy data, and our consumers will have the option to opt in and sell their data or monetize it, whether it's for clinical trial, whether it's for device trial, whether it is for any other form of enhanced clinical outcomes, such as ACOs, accountable care organizations wanting to buy data from their patients. There are many use cases here, or incentives by employers to employees, which do not require the employee identification for incentive to be delivered, or be it the insurance company offering incentives to get your annual exams done. And if your exam results are within or have shown a positive trend line, you get a reduced premium. There's so many ways you can monetize patient data without revealing patient identity or having the patient give up control over their data. We permit both of that. We allow anonymous, verifiable compliance with the rules of the network, and we allow for real-time monetization and payment of that compliance. But in the end, it's a client's job to figure out how they want to design a network with our help. Will other tokens be used in the platform for any type of transaction, and how? Also, what is the plan for NFTs in the platform, and do you see any integration and utility of them in the platform? So in terms of other tokens being used in the platform, yes, I covered this topic in the previous, I think 3 questions ago, where I mentioned that given the different redemption models, today there are 2 different redemption models, market value and deposit value. And in the deposit value, we today wrap the Solve token into effectively into a stablecoin wrapper. And we expect that we will support a variety of stablecoins into which Solve can be wrapped over time. So you convert Solve into, let's say, USDC, or you convert Solve into a P-Solve, as we call it, a proxy Solve, which is a wrapper around any other stablecoin that we feel comfortable with. So that's one use case. The second use case is to simply allow other tokens to transact in the platform as a alternative to Solve. And we are not ready to do that. We're not sure there is any value to that. So our core philosophy is the following. Solve is the core platform currency, but we can wrap or link Solve to any other token that makes sense and allow that token to value to be wrapped into Solve, and we can then redeem Solve for that token rather than for USD or BTC or Ether. So there's no problem with doing that, but we'll have to see real business case for that. So if we have a client that comes to us and says, look, I accept this token today, and I want you to somehow enable a care network where the token that I accept today is valid as a form of payment, we would then allow for a conversion between that token and Solve, and back from Solve to that token in that care network, subject to the appropriate due diligence having been done. So we can essentially support any token we want because we already have the wrapping mechanism built for various different scenarios. Now, when it comes to NFTs, so sorry, let me finish the token thought process. If you think about Solve as a gasoline, similar to Ether for Ethereum, Solve for Care platform, we are not going to replace Solve at the platform level where some other token will transact the way Solve moves between wallets and will move between cards and between networks even. That part will not change. What will change is the wrapping of Solve with other tokens. That we will allow a whole host of them. We already have plans to wrap Solve into a few other tokens. We, in fact, were looking at a variety of tokens like BNB and a few other tokens that we wanted to wrap Solve with, but we decided that let's wait and see where the market lands and which of these tokens actually are reliable enough for us to bring into our ecosystem. So that's where we are. But wrapping Solve with other token wrappers is certainly something we need to do. And we're already doing it. In terms of NFTs, we thought about NFTs many times. We thought about NFTs potentially for provider credentials. We thought because those are unique, a provider credential should be uniquely marked. Your provider credential should also be time bound. The NFT should, in effect, reach a point of maturity where it is no longer valid. Or if it's valid, it needs to be refreshed with additional token saying, I still have the same credentials. I have not been barred from practicing and so on. But NFTs are a form of a unique digital certificate, right? And every provider's credentials are unique to them. So we could easily do that. But they're not so much as tradable NFTs. The thing that I want to be clear about is provider credentials aren't tradable. They're simply a digitally certified credentials. Patient data as NFTs can be tradable. And patient data as NFTs is already permitted in the sense that you can link patient data to a care card, and you can think of that care card as an NFT, and you can allow that card to be sold to other members of the network or even across networks. So in that sense, the properties of NFT that make it tradable are already present in care cards. So having said that, I think that sooner or later, we're going to see networks launched where the care card will carry an NFT embedded in it, because that NFT's digital footprint is something we want to link to the card. And that will most likely be in the form of a patient data set or a device data set, or even an aggregated network data set that can be put out as an NFT, where everybody who contributed to that NFT in terms of data then gets a piece of the revenue for that NFT to be sold. But in terms of we're not looking at introducing NFTs today, which are more, the Bored Ape type NFTs, which are more creative NFTs. What we are looking for is data-driven NFTs. But frankly, there has not been much demand for them from the clients. We have had many discussions with clients saying, would you like us to enable an NFT version of the care data? And we haven't seen much value or excitement around it. But I do think that there's going to be value in the future. And care card is a simple way for us to embed and transport and trade an NFT if that comes up. But there are no imminent plans to do so. When the need arises, we will do it. If any of you have a really compelling use case of NFTs in healthcare, more than happy to take that conversation one-on-one and figure out what the real utility and value is. Where today we haven't seen any that makes us get very excited. And we are focused on launching care networks and enhancing the wallet token protocol. And to us, adding NFT would not be a big step. It wouldn't be a huge problem. But let's see what the ROI is, what the return on investment is. Apart from the Solve token being used for payment, gas, and fees in the platform, what other more and additional utilities uses do you envisage for Solve token? There are many, but let's just go through the big ones. So gas payment and fees are clearly the fundamental value of Solve as a utility token. Then you can get into community rewards, which would be things like community run projects, the ability for card authors or protocol authors to monetize their creation. So Care Marketplace, in terms of publishing your assets and having those assets be bought to be purchased either on a per use basis or on a one-time payment basis. A good example of that would be allowing the one network author, let's say cardiology network from a top university, to be published for other hospitals around the world to say, I like that cardiology care model. I'm going to adopt it. It's going to give me good customer and provider relationships. I'm going to get more revenue. I'll attract more patients to my hospital and so on. And they might buy that protocol as a per use protocol. And then all the tokens that are generated by the new protocol would be split between the original author and the borrower, if you will. But those are all basically another form of gas or fee or payment, right? They're not really anything different. So foundationally, I think we've covered every use case. Staking is another option for Solve. We see that to be potentially a more enhanced version of the Solve being staking. Wrapping, I've already covered that. The ability for Solve to move between Solve and stablecoin and back is certainly an enhanced use of Solve. And then we get into this question of, can we allow the Solve in some way to earn income, right? This is always a question in the market. Should Solve be, in effect, a yield instrument? And our view has been that until and unless clear regulation comes out around yield-bearing digital assets, and there is clear laws governing it, we are going to stay away from anything that looks like or feels like or creates a yield scenario, because we don't want to be accidentally creating a product that is in violation of SEC rules or some other securities laws anywhere in the world. So Solve is a utility token, and we are going to continue to enhance its utility in the form of programmability, in the form of linkability or wrapping, or in the form of its use cases or utility for cards or journeys or networks or Care Marketplace, or for sharing and pooling in the Care Circle, which I forgot to mention. One of the other utilities of Solve is the upcoming sharing and pooling features in the Care Circle, where I can pool my Solve with my mom, and whoever has a bill to pay can use the pool to pay it. Those kind of things is where we see Solve continuously enhance. So it becomes a utility at a level that grandma finds ever greater utility in Solve. Effectively, we want to replace or become the Visa of healthcare. And the more effective, easier, and more capable Solve is, both in terms of number of people who will accept Solve and number of people who are willing to pay in Solve, it becomes that virtuous cycle. So if we truly want to be Visa of healthcare, then we have to have Solve token be more programmable. We have to have the Solve token be more available. We have to have the Solve token have utility in the form of a gas fee and payment. And we have to have the Solve token be wrapped into as many supporting stable coins as we need to ensure that there is the various redemption models in place. So those are the ways I see Solve being enhanced: how it is redeemed, how it is acquired, how it is programmed, how it is utilized within the network, and how it can be pooled or gifted in the Care Circle. Those are the various ways Solve token is already doing or will be doing more and more of these utility features. Some countries have started creating their own central bank digital coins, assuming some countries accept Solve platform for citizen healthcare, but with the condition that they own digital. Yeah, this is exactly what I mentioned earlier. So this question has already been answered. I'll answer it again in a nutshell. A CBDC is effectively another form of a government-issued stable coin because it is meant to be pegged to their national currency. And we'd be more than happy to wrap Solve into any number of CBDCs that come out, effectively saying that, look, if the patient or the doctor is in this country, then when you're talking about Solve redemption, Solve redeems from, you redeem Solve for the CBDC. And that's a pretty straightforward thing to do, where we can effectively change the redemption program logic to say, redemption is not an Ether or Bitcoin or USD or USDT or USDC. The redemption is in the CBDC, and that's pretty simple. So I think we can race to integrate CBDCs into Care platform as soon as they become prevalent, especially if a client is asking for them. So I think the CBDC emergence to us is a good thing. To us, it's a logical thing, and we will be more than happy to support CBDCs as a wrapper or as a conversion from Solve to CBDC and back. Apart from tokenizing payments, we believe that all data, consents, identity, and events are tokenized. Please let us know the importance and benefit of this to users on the platform. So this is a fairly technical question, but in a nutshell, everything should be defined as who owns it, who has the right to see it, who has given whom the right to do what level of identity is needed to authenticate that the giver and the receiver are the right parties. And for every event, we need to be able to trace that all the way back to the originating card or originating wallet. But so all of that is tokenized in the sense that every single event, when it runs through the gas mechanism, we all create all the appropriate non-identifiable metadata to trace the wallet to wallet transaction. And we need Solve both from a purpose of charging for that event as well as tracking what the event was and how it moved from wallet to wallet. So in a nutshell, because Solve is the gas for everything, whether you're sharing data, giving a consent, exposing part of the identity through your profile card, or sending or receiving a card with the underlying events, all of that is tokenized in the sense that they both consume Solve or need Solve, they transport Solve, as well as they are trackable based on that Solve interaction as to why this Solve gas fee was charged, what was the nature of the event, who originated it, when they originated it, what protocol and card type was attached to that event, what exactly, we cannot see the payload ever. That payload is only known to party A and party B, but we can see everything about what A and B did without even knowing who A is and who B is, other than their wallet ID and their role. So all of that is already in place. The benefit of that is compliance. So that's a one-word statement. We can effectively engineer a care network in any kind of protocol, in any kind of a jurisdiction using the care protocol. So it's all about compliance. Compliance means adoption. Adoption means more revenue. Revenue means more Solve utility and more Solve adoption and more sustainable and profitable future. So all of this we're doing because we want the networks to be compliant. We want the network authors to feel confident that when they launch a network, they will not only meet but exceed their local or international rules. And that should there be any dispute, that dispute can be settled in the court of law with the certainty that the data they're using to defend themselves is accurate and immutable. So all of this goes back to compliance, which leads to lower liability, which leads to greater adoption, which leads to more institutions saying, I would rather use Care platform than any other platform on the planet because my risk is lower. My cost to launch a care network is infinitesimally small compared to doing anything else in the market. And my patients and my doctors love it. So that's why you do all this, right? In the end, the patients and doctors should love it, and the CIO should love it even more because we are helping the CIO or the doctor or the CTO or the CEO or the CEO of health system, insurance company, government organization, pharmaceutical, pharmacy network, large clinics, ACOs, TPAs, any of these IDNs to be able to say, I can do more with Care platform than I can do with anybody else, cheaper, faster, better, and my risk is much lower. So that's why tokenizing not just payments, but every event and every interaction between wallets is critical. Because if all we can audit is payment, it's not good enough. We have to be able to audit the movement of the request and the response of data and the giving and receiving and revoking of consent and the very incremental sharing of identity and ensuring that every event that happens within any two wallets is ultimately traceable back to the originating and the receiving wallet with a stamped identity transaction that tells us how much gas was charged, which also tells us the type of event that was charged. So that's in a nutshell why this is so important. Okay, this is a long question. Let's read it. Apart from decentralized data, another great important platform is having decentralized and personalized identity. Yes, that's correct. Please let us know the importance of this to users in the platform. And also, for example, Korea and other countries has future plans for its citizens to have personalized digital identities using blockchain. So how can Solve.Care benefit key into this and also be affected? Well, we expect that to happen. We hope that happens. So we have created a tiered identity system in the platform. And that tiered identity system allows the user, the Care Wallet holder, to only reveal parts of their identity that they need to reveal to get the service they need. So if you're going to just go buy Tylenol, you don't need to reveal to the pharmacist your entire medical history. Tylenol is over-the-counter product. It's a painkiller. You can buy it without any reason for whatever reason. And you may be limited in its quantities you can buy or the strength, but you can buy it. And most countries would sell you ibuprofen or acetaminophen, the other forms of painkillers that you can buy on the counter. So why should they know anything about you? Therefore, the identity of the Care Wallet only reveals the identity that is needed for the transaction. So if a card is trying to accomplish something that does not need to know anything about your identity, the card will go simply with the wallet ID. But if the card needs to carry your health data with it for it to be accepted on the other side, for it to have relevance and value in the hands of the doctor, you can attach your personal health history or medical records to the card, and that will enrich the card with more data than you sent the previous card. And the same card can be sent to different parties with different level of identity too. So I can tell my mom a lot more about myself than I'm willing to tell, let's say, a pharmacist. So all that is already built into the Care Wallet as this deck of identity card or profile deck, where different levels of identity are already segregated, and you share the right card with the right identity card in the context of the care journey. You never share more. So that's already done. Now, if a government, one of the cards there is what we call third-party identity tokens. In other words, if the Korean government says to every Korean citizen, you have now been issued a blockchain identity, here is your blockchain ID, and you have to use this ID anytime you transact with any hospital, doctor, pharmacy, clinic, lab, whatever. Easy. We have a card type in the profile called third-party identity token. So we can accept this government issued blockchain ID, link that into your profile, have it inside one of the cards that is shared when needed. If you're interacting with networks in the Korea, you would share that card number 7. But if you're interacting with networks in USA, you don't need to share that card because it has no relevance or value. So the point of this is, whether it's government issued ID or hospital issued ID or pharma issued ID or employer issued ID or insurance issued ID, or it's your self-created unique Care Wallet ID, or you are trying to get a KYC completed ID, these are all third-party tokens that enrich your Care Wallet profile. Now, if you have done KYC with some certified entity and you have a KYC token, then we can attach that to your profile, card 7, I believe, or 6, I don't remember the card number, but there are a fixed number of cards. Each card has a very unique purpose. I believe card 0 carries your wallet ID and your phone number, and card 7 carries financial data, and card 6 carries your third-party identity tokens, and so on. This structure is already there. This deck of cards is already built. It's in the Care Wallet. So all you have to do is to link the right card to the right content to the right card, and you're done. So if Korean government issues blockchain ID for every patient, we are ready. Bring it on. It's already part of our plan that such IDs will originate, and we can easily accept and link that into your profile deck, and we are done. Okay, guys, we've been at it for about, let's see, my throat is getting sore. I'm going to take a 5-minute break. It's 1 hour. Let's take a 5-minute break, and I'll come back and we'll pick up this conversation. We are only at question number 10. The team is telling me there is 15 more. I will go for another 30 minutes and cover as many as I can. The rest I will provide written answers, because I do need to wrap up this AMA by 4:30. So let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back and we'll continue. Thank you. All right, let's continue. So the question is about how users can transfer and store in the Care Wallet the data that has been stored in legacy systems, EMRs and EHRs. The way the data moves from EMR and EHR is through Care Data Node. So the EMRs and EHRs, or what is an EMR? Electronic medical records, or EHR, electronic health records, same idea. Or you might have data in the insurance company system or in your pharmacy or in your lab system. All that data today moves two different ways. One is institutionally. A care data node can be set up for any care network, which then allows mass volumes of data for all the network participants to be loaded in through the care data node. That's typically how our clients load the large amounts of data set they have for their consumers. So if you're a hospital system and you want to distribute to every patient their data and to essentially remove it from your systems, or even to simply say that you have a full copy of the data that we have, then you would run the data through the care data node, and all the data moves automatically into the vault of individual care wallets through the care data node, distributing those as care events. So this is a flow, system to node, node to wallet. The second way to load the data is through the individual. So in the upcoming releases, we will allow the Care Wallet to directly load data into the Care Vault, where you can load various data files, be it, of course, PDFs or DICOM images or anything else directly in as a feature of the Care Vault. There is some risk to that because that data is not certified, its origin is not known. When you load the data directly from your computer or from your phone, we cannot vouch for where the data originated. Is it accurate or is it not? So there is certain validity and segregation of data that was not institutionally certified to not be mixed up with institutional data, but that's easily done in the vault. So long and short of it is, today the primary mechanism of moving data into the wallet is through the Care Data Node, but in the upcoming releases, we will allow for direct consumer loaded data if that is something that we see as growing in value. And we think that that's important, but not so important that it should be a high priority, but it's on the roadmap. Now, in terms of storage capacity, there are two places where you store your data. One is in the Care Vault, which is on your device, and the other is on your Care Node, which is in the network. So the data that is run through the Care Data Node flows from the Care Data Node to the Care Node to the wallet. So it's always on the Care Node, whether your wallet has space or not. But if the data is loaded directly from the consumer from their phone through the Care Wallet, then it has to flow from wallet to the node and stored there, and it may be purged from your wallet if you don't have enough capacity. We are always mindful that many old elderly parents and patients will not have very robust mobile phone devices with huge amounts of storage. So we cannot expect the phone to be the ultimate storage system, but rather in the ultimate index of where on the node the data is. And the node is where the data is stored. And we have not limited the node size today. So in our mind, the Care Wallet holders today have practically unlimited data because the data comes from the Care Data Node anyway. We know it's all legitimate data and not some garbage. When we introduce patient-loaded direct load of data through the wallet into the node, we will then create pricing tiers. And we will then create model where it will cost you a certain number of Solve if you want to store certain amount of data on your care node. Because then we are outside the control of a care network and we do not have the legitimate certified source of data. It could be anything. And how would we ensure that what is being stored in the Care Data Node is legitimate medical information? So therefore, we're going to put a pricing control on patient-loaded data. But there is no need for any pricing control on Care Data Node data. So we already factor in the size of the data that a care network will generate in your wallet in the care network pricing. So we don't need to charge the patient anything. The care network sponsor is paying for that. But when we allow for scenario 2, patient direct loading of data, at that point in time, there will be a node-based pricing. We have designed 3 node prices, average node, standard node, large node, and extra large node. And they will cost anywhere between $1 to $5 a month, depending upon how big a node you need for consumer generated and stored data. So that is being figured out as part of our roadmap. This is one of the reasons why we haven't opened up the direct loading of patient data into the Care wallet. One, security and compliance, and the second being figuring out whether we want to charge for that storage and how much. And we figured most of that out, so we will put that into play for next year. So in a nutshell, network-sponsored, network-generated data, which is primarily EMR and EHR data, flows from the EMR to Care data node to the Care node, and is already factored into the network design and does not cost the patient anything. The network sponsor pays for it. And for second part of it is patient-generated, patient-loaded data will trigger a pricing mechanism which will limit the amount of data you can store on your Care data and your Care node. And if you want to scale up, you will be able to scale up by spending more Solve per month. All right. Can you please, with some degree of certainty, without revealing the client name, tell us 10 Care networks? Sure. So it's not what we believe, it's what we have in the pipeline, what we have to do. But the three that I'm most excited about are GTHE on protocol. So effectively taking the GTHE network that was built off protocol and starting to author it onto the Care protocol, thereby making it provider modifiable, enhanceable, by making it customizable for each specialty, and by making it more configurable from a regulatory perspective. So that's one network that we plan to build. The second one is the Definitize, which is something that we feel will do very well as a Care network, subject to many things we have to figure out, such as the legal and the regulatory issues around our DAO. But to the degree that voting and the mining and the proposal reviewing, all those features we see as much simpler to do as Care cards in a Care network. The third Care network, which is really high on our list, is Care network, is a Care marketplace, both for devices, for data, and for technical, for platform objects like cards and journeys and protocols and event handlers. But those are all three Solve.Care networks, right? They're not client networks. On the client side, we have a cardiology Care network. We have a fertility network, a fertility clinic network. We have a network around second opinion, between cross-border second opinion network. We have a network around remote patient monitoring. We have a network around a government network that we are working on around elderly care. There's actually a large list of networks. Let me bring it up and see what else I'm missing. In fact, I'm gonna ask one of the community admins to send me the latest network backlog in Telegram, and I'll open it and look at it. So I'll come back to that exact question. But the 10 networks that we speak about launching next year are all client-sponsored networks. They are networks where a client, such as a hospital or a pharmacy or a pharmaceutical company or an ACO or a TPA or a provider network or even an individual provider, is looking to launch on the platform. Those are client networks, sponsored by and paid for by clients. Plus the three networks that Solve.Care wants to launch: GTHE, Definitize, and Care Marketplace, using the on-protocol capabilities. And I'll go through that list as soon as I get it. Okay, we are switching to a whole different set of questions. HTR is a Vietnam-based company. What is it that makes them the preferred vendor for work to be undertaken in Korea? So my understanding is that this company is very focused on and has a lot of experience in Korea. And they were specifically recommended to us by our Korean partners who we already have a relationship with. And this partnership goes well beyond just doing marketing. This is actually a go-to-market partnership where HTR will work with us to ensure that future network launches in Korea have all the communication, personalization, localization, as well as wallet downloads, and all the lessons we learned from launching the Koreans Are Winners network, and making sure that we have them working with us hand in hand. So think of them as not just marketing and communication, which is very important, but also around network adoption and wallet downloads. And we have a number of networks planned for Korea, client-sponsored networks. And the clients are asking us, hey, what are you going to do to help me get my patients, my doctors, my family members, my elderly patients, my device users, whoever my consumer is, how will you help me communicate to them? What resources do you have available to create personalized content, to do outreach campaigns, to ensure that we are speaking to the patient in a language they understand? So we looked at HTR as a network launch partner who helps us effectively sell network launch services to our clients, in addition to supporting our activity in Korea. I've already answered this question. Okay, so this is probably related to Koreans are winners network. Solve awarded as a result of the campaign may only be withdrawn from the Care wallet after a period of 366 days. Does this mean that the winners will be able to do what they wish with the tokens post that date, including withdraw and convert to fiat? I am not familiar with this status of this particular clause, so I will have to give you a written answer on this because I do not remember or have not been involved with how the KRW network has been configured. So allow me to get back to you in writing on this. And Solve.Care team, please make note that we need to have an internal discussion so I understand what the question is and what the right answer is. Can we expect 30 million gross revenue in 2023 with 12 network launch? That's a very good question. It's hard for me to say that we can hit that specific number. I think the number that I'm going after is the diversity of networks available. I would like to see at least 5 distinctly different networks with different clinical value launched, number of countries that those networks are available in, the number of wallets that are connected to each network, number of wallets that are connected to multiple networks, and our node fees we already know. The number of the node fee per wallet, per node per month that the network sponsor pays us is already clear. So it really depends upon how diverse and how many clinically valid networks do we launch. And I think with the adoption we are seeing from very high profile clinical clients, that we will meet our goals for 2023. We have not set a revenue target for 2023 in terms of US dollars, although it's a good idea to project, but there are too many variables for us to do that. So I would say that I don't think that we will hit 30 million in gross revenue in 2023 without knowing exactly which network will launch when. And that will become clearer as we get into the first 3 or 4 network launches, which are expected in the first half of the year. So I cannot say that for sure we will get there, the number that you have put out here, but I can say for sure that my target is the diversity of networks, the diversity of wallets, number of wallets, percentage of wallets that are using more than one network is a very critical metric for us. It's a key KPI for the company, as well as having the diversity of clinical value of our networks. We don't want to have 5 diabetes care networks. We want to have diabetes, cardiology, cancer, pediatric development, and so on. The more diverse our clinical value is, the more we're going to attract patients to come to our platform as a first place to look for healthcare. Effectively, that Amazon of healthcare concept gets achieved faster with diversity of clinical care networks, with highly reputable care network sponsors whose name is clearly known to the patient, and therefore they want to join that company's network. I think those are the key metrics I'm going after. What would be the team size in total by 2023? We are going to see some shift. We're going to see people move from development to delivery. So we will see more delivery resources for sure, both in terms of account management, in terms of network authoring teams or network authoring pods, the 3-person pod I described earlier, in terms of sales engineers who are working with the client and educating them on how to configure various networks, in terms of community developers, community developer support team, as well as Care Labs training team. So I do think the headcount will increase probably by 50% over where we are, so somewhere in the 125% range, but the composition will look very different. We're going to see a lot more of the market-facing resources. We don't expect to grow our dev team much more or substantially. We expect to see significant increase in the delivery team and in the revenue-generating, client-facing account managers and delivery manager teams. So if I were to take a guess, we would end 2023 in the 125% range. How much is Solve.Care valued as a company today and by 2023 end? Let me answer that question at the end of Q1. We are entering conversations with highly reputable and exciting venture capitalists and other sources of funding, both high net worth individuals and strategic clients, investors, as well as very highly professional venture capitalists. We will have a better sense of what they think Solve.Care's value is, and we're going to see a range. Remember the old adage, the VC thinks you're worth nothing when they're investing, and they suddenly think you're a unicorn the day after they invest. And that's normal, because they want to get the maximum value when they are buying, and they want to have the maximum value when they're selling. And in their mind, every VC's mind, including mine, would be that I want to look at all the weaknesses of Solve.Care when I'm putting the money in. And then once the money is in, I'll look at all the strengths of Solve.Care to convince everybody else that Solve.Care is worth a lot more than I paid for. That's normal. So the answer of this would be our value pre-venture capital or traditional capital and post will be very different. The way I see it, our value ultimately is going to be determined and reflected in the number of wallets that we see downloaded, and the number of networks, and the number of clinically valid solutions we bring to the market. Diabetes and cancer and dementia and Alzheimer's and heart condition and asthma and COPD and so on. Once we cross that 30 network mark, where practically every major disease condition has a network on the platform that you can use and you can combine with every other disease condition that's important to humanity, I think our value is going to have absolutely a stratospheric rise. People will suddenly see that tipping point achieved. And I believe 2023 is our tipping point, both in terms of network diversity, network utility, network adoption, Solve token utility, and Solve.Care value. I think 2023 is our year, and we need to do everything we can to ensure that we see that vertical ascendant curve, if you will, where the price of Solve.Care as a company, or the value of Solve.Care as a company, and other parameters that reflect that value will show significant increase. So my answer is, I do not know what Solve.Care is worth in the eyes of third parties today, but I know that by end of 2023, we will be sitting at a completely different level of value, and both real value and perceived value. But I have no fixed numbers in mind, but I know that where we are today is a fraction of where we should be at the end of 2023. Is there any utility presently available within that network? I'm not sure which network you're referring to, which requires Solve to be spent. My guess is this is the Koreans are winners network that you are talking about, because GTHE clearly, as we author it, Solve is the key. So is Care Marketplace, and so is all the networks that the clients are authoring. So when you talk about that network, I believe this must be the Koreans are winners network. Again, I do not know whether the Koreans are winners network has already published the Spend Solve journey or is about to publish, but there's a whole host of journeys coming in the Koreans are winners network that will continuously be launched, because this is on protocol network. It's not difficult to launch a new journey, both directly and in partnership with our partners in Korea, where Solve will be needed. So we will get back to you on this one with a specific answer. So this is an odd question. I answered it last time as well. We have multiple financial institutions that serve different subsidiaries of Solve in different countries, and Deltec is one of those entities that we have worked with in the past. We do not use them very heavily, but as far as I know, they are very much still our one of our banking relationships that we have, but we are not reliant upon any one banking relationship. We have a very diversified banking relationship around the world, because different clients prefer to transact in their local banking environment, and we have set up subsidiaries in every place, properly structured, properly configured, with proper banking and regulatory and legal and accounting relationships, so that we can transact with companies like a Swiss pharmaceutical company, or a US lab system, or an Indian generic manufacturer. Whatever we are dealing with, we're dealing with a highly regulated space. So I won't comment on Deltec specifically, but what I will say is that we have lots of appropriate and properly configured banking relationships based on which country we are dealing with. For the Korean roadmap, sorry, let's go back. The Metaverse Hospital and other networks are supposed to launch in Q1 2023. What is the update and timeline on the Metaverse Hospital? I do not know the Metaverse Hospital timeline. I will ask Dr. Lee to provide that. But we are working on a number of networks in Korea that are supposed to launch in Q1 and Q2. And there are far more than we thought at the beginning of the year. So not only the Metaverse Hospital is a network, there is also a geriatric care network, and there is also a second opinion network that are being authored in Korea. Big announcements on that coming up. So stand by for that, and I'll get back to you on the answer for the Metaverse date. I'll consult with Dr. Lee on when exactly he expects to launch it. The question here is, when we start launching a number of networks, what kind of challenges do we have or we anticipate? And how will they be solved effectively? So that's a very broad question. The challenges that I anticipate are mostly around adoption and around communication. So as we launch more and more care networks for clients with different diversity of consumers population, be it young, old, very old, elderly, incapacitated, or there's going to be a whole host of issues that we will see around patient or provider comprehension and ease of usage. So it's going to boil down to authoring cards that are simple and easy for them to understand. And what we will find when we launch the first half a dozen networks is that a card that we might think is super easy may not be easy enough for grandma. So we have to be able to author that card again quickly to make that grandma friendly. And we're going to know that based on market feedback or client feedback. So the biggest problem that I think we need to be ready for is rapid reauthoring of card from a user experience perspective, which then takes us back to care protocol. And we have already done a lot of work in that by building out the care tiles library and the ability to redefine or replace a tile without breaking the card and so on. There's all kinds of really great things that have been built in the base care card now, which lets us do things like that. So I think the biggest challenge here is to ensure that the care wallet holder can interact with the network in a manner that they want to interact with. And that is a never-ending journey. But I know that no matter what we author, no matter what we design, no matter what the doctor thinks is cool, till the patient uses the card and gives us feedback, we're not really sure that that card is exactly grandmother friendly. So that's my first, second, and third challenge, is ensuring that grandma can use the network as envisioned, and we can reauthor the card if need be, as many times as need be, without breaking the network. So that's, I think, where we need to be focused on. The second area that we need to be very careful about is regulation. So regulators are used to dealing with centralized systems. And it's very hard for them to understand that decentralized systems do not have the same attack surface as a centralized system, that if you don't have data, you can't abuse it. So they are still going to be looking for the same kind of attestations and the liability and HIPAA associate agreements and whatnot that goes with using centralized data where data must be protected because somebody has godlike power on that data. So we have brought in our chief legal officer or general counsel starting January, whose job will be to negotiate these agreements with regulators in a way that our clients are comfortable, but the regulator also recognizes that you can't apply a principle that was built for an apple to a pineapple. But to achieve that, we need to negotiate. So I think negotiations with regulators or with clients in ensuring that they feel comfortable about the liability, risk, and compliance elements of the platform is going to be both our strength and also our challenge. But we've overcome a lot of that already, but more of that is coming. And the third thing that I think that will be a challenge for us that we need to be ready for is that as we launch networks in countries where Solve token is not easily available, we're going to need to deal with the fact that we will need to rush to get listings done, or however we make the Solve token available in those countries where there is a preponderance of patients, let's say in the Middle East or in Southeast Asia. And now we have to make sure that there is appropriate level of accessibility, availability of Solve. Now we've addressed that by and large by allowing the token, you can buy Solve token directly in the Care wallet. But again, that's configurable by country. So the Care wallet purchasing is by default present as long as the regulation allows it. But I think we need to deal with the Solve token availability in other parts of the world, because the Care wallet is a way to buy the token. But if you're buying bulk, you will need other solutions. So those are my three thoughts. I don't think that we are particularly concerned about some infrastructure issues, because those are pretty, each network we know in advance the size and the scale and the number of nodes. So there's no surprises there. And if we exceed the number of available nodes, the client has to agree to open up more nodes. So that's pretty straightforward. The wallets individually are, I think, in very good shape. So really, I think adoption, availability, and legal conversations with client and regulators is the challenges that we need to be ready for, and we are. You mentioned in one of your AMAs 5 additional ways the platform will generate revenue, which are card usage revenue. This is community revenue, by the way. Community expert service revenue, network peer review revenue, mining revenue, and distributor revenue. So I think these are definitized. Some of these are definitized revenue, but let's go through each of them. Card usage revenue is pretty straightforward. I design a great card to how to manage your weight, or to control your diet, or to manage your sleep, or to do meditation, or to manage the risk of missing out on your, to manage the risk of taking certain prescriptions, which should not be taken together. Any number of things that I design, whether I'm a doctor or a dietitian or just a health enthusiast or whatever. And I want to build a card that I want to put in the marketplace. And if you want to use my card, then you pay me a transaction fee for using the card. That's a card journey usage revenue. Or you could be you could have designed a great card to visualize and represent Epic or Cerner or McKesson or Athena or Allscripts or Siemens or SAP data related to a patient in a way that is really cool. And you want that data visualization card to be, again, transactionally priced, or one-time usage price, or it could be one-time payment for infinite usage. So that's where we see the community designing really cool cards, starting with doctors who want to sell their expertise in a certain area. And one of the areas that I'm really keen on seeing cards built initially is like age, healthy aging, stress, sleep, diet, alcohol, substance abuse, mental health, depression, these kind of services that can be offered in the form of cards by certified clinicians that are largely self-help, but they are coming from a certified source, would be a great starting point for this card usage journey. The second one is community expert service revenue. So we, as I mentioned earlier, with the launch of Care Labs, we see, institutional authors, clinical authors, and ultimately consumer authors. We also see the role of integrators and community developers. So particularly in the community, in the integrator role, community experts are going to be really valuable in that they can do the data mapping between an EMR and the care data node, or they can do the integration between a ERX and the care data node. All these integration points, be it HL7, be it ANSI X12, be it NSF, be it custom data file, whatever we are dealing with, those we do not wish to, as Solve.Care, manage or control those service pool. To us, that's a community expert service, part and sold between the community expert service provider and the client. So that's a consulting slash protocol slash care data node interface services. The network peer review is a really important service that we need to monetize next year. When you launch a cardiology care or a diabetic care or some kind of a clinical care model, to the degree that you are already a certified institution, while you already have the credentials to launch the network, that's fine. But to the degree that this network is authored by someone who is not a certified clinical care organization, but they have credentials as a care provider, but not as a clinical organization, we will need to have network peer review. So how do we make sure that the COPD network that somebody's designing is acceptable by other pulmonary specialists? So having that kind of a clinical review team that is paid to review the network and gives it appropriate level of blessing, like a clinical review board, is one example of where we see clinicians pooling together and providing that service and generating revenue for themselves. The mining Solve token is not a mining revenue. I'm sorry, now I know what this is about. So now we're talking about here the mining on the care nodes. So as we look to expand the care nodes into a more decentralized fabric, the care node hosts will be able to share in the gas fees that we make. So the gas fees that Solve charges will be distributed to miners who are hosting the care nodes. And that care node hosting program in the form of what we call care chain is something that we are targeting with a stretch goal for 2023. It may be possible, may not be possible, but certainly something we would like to achieve is to launch the decentralized fabric for the care nodes. The distributor revenue is really exciting revenue for us. We are starting to see demand for care platform by organizations who not only want to build care networks themselves, but they want to build care networks for others. So we were approached by a company in the Middle East that wants to take the care platform and author a series of care networks for local hospitals and for network of clinics like chiropractic and radiology and so on. So in that case, we would look to appoint them as a distributor where they have the ability to market and author networks and launch them in that region for certain disease conditions or certain types of clients. And the revenue that they generate from the network, we get a piece of that and they retain a piece of that. That's a way for us to expand our ability to sell the platform in various parts of the world where we are not physically present, where Solve.Care doesn't have a physical presence. And that's something that we saw a lot of interest pre-COVID in that model, and it's starting to come back. So those are all 5 valid network revenue generators. What are the several risks you can envisage that might affect the company, platform, clients, users, and the operation services? And what are the plans to mitigate them? And is there insurance in place? I think I answered this question last time. So in our world, each network has a network sponsor. The network sponsor bears the responsibility for the network performance, network behavior, network use of data, and in terms of any kind of insurance that that network needs, or certificates, or licenses, or peer review. So we work with the client to ensure that their network on the platform that's being launched meets both risk and liability, as well as compliance and regulatory and certification issues, if any. If you have a network being launched by a clinically certified organization like a major hospital, those are already baked into their business model. They already have all the rules and regulations in place, compliance in place. But if you're dealing with a smaller institution, they need help with that, and we provide them that help, or the community network experts need to provide that help. So that's the model. So from a platform perspective, Solve.Care guarantees certain things, but the network design is what the client is responsible for. So that's the second half of your question. Who buys insurance for the network? The network sponsor does. Now, in terms of the overall risk to the company, well, like any other company, we have the usual set of risks, and then we have some unusual set of risks. And we have plans in place for most of them. The first is, of course, the key man insurance, making sure that if any one of the key members of the team gets hit by the proverbial bus, how do we carry on? The second is regulatory and legal compliance of the company to make sure that we are operating in a way that we can demonstrate compliance with whatever jurisdiction we are operating in, be it Solve.Care USA or Solve.Care Korea or Solve.Care Hungary. They all need to be compliant. The third risk that we see is a broader market risk of some kind of a massive crypto regulation, which makes it difficult for companies to operate in the digital asset space. While that's not good news for anyone, we believe that we have built a platform that is very flexible, and we'll be able to adapt to any such regulatory requirements that come our way. And we may have to enhance a care protocol to make it even more reflective of those rules. But in the end, our job is to improve healthcare. Our job is to use digital assets and blockchain and decentralization and decentralized ID and decentralized data to drive better healthcare results. And our clients agree with that. So I don't think that the crypto regulation is a risk of a similar magnitude for us as it would be for a pure financial, token swapping protocol, because we are really not doing any of that stuff. We're not a lending, yield generating, swapping, staking protocol. We are a healthcare platform. So to the degree that there is crypto regulation coming and something will come, we will need to adapt to it and make sure that we comply with it. The other area of risk that I see us dealing with is obviously competition. So we have, and I'm very pleased to say, made sure that certain parts of the platform that we believe are fundamental and extremely innovative, we are moving forward with or have already moved forward with filing patents for those technologies. And we have made tremendous progress in obtaining the patent, or at least getting to the final stages of these patents. So we are trying to protect our IP from being unilaterally leveraged by bigger players. And I think that with the progress of patents we have made in 2022, which has been very, very exciting, I think we are in a good place there, but there's always risk. My greatest concern for 2023, and I published my 5 key objectives for the company, for the executive team, are diversity of networks and diversity of recurring revenue, so that we don't have a single client controlling our revenue stream. Second is to ensure that we have growth funding in place, because we're going to grow really fast now. And to handle that kind of growth, no matter how smart you are, no matter how hard you work, you got to have growth capital, because we are talking about meteoric, incredibly fast growth, and we have to be able to manage that, because the worst thing in the world you can have is no growth, and the second worst thing you can have is too much growth. And I need to make sure that whatever growth is in front of us, and since we need to grab market share to become the de facto most used global health platform, we need to have growth funding in place. The third thing that I worry about always is, how do we make the platform more authorizable, more configurable? So we already covered that at great detail, that authorizability and the configurability of the protocol and the density of the protocol in terms of what else we can pack into it, so that the more complex networks can be fully authored. The base care card becomes denser, so we can have more derivative cards without needing any coding. Those kind of things we already covered at great length. That's the third focus. The fourth area is management maturity. So we have already brought in a CTO, we have brought in a general counsel, we brought in a head of recruiting, but I think there is still a need to bring in a CFO and potentially a human resource expert with really focus on developing our people. So those areas are not risk, but they're very important to be dealt with. And finally, I do believe that we as an organization need to really rebalance the workload. People are working extremely hard for too long, and we need to focus, achieve a better balance between what needs to be done and how we are getting it done, which is through incredibly hard work and intense activity. And I know that many people talk about, well, you missed this deadline or that deadline. And I always say to myself, yes, we might have, and yes, we did, and you're right, but there's so much more that got done than meets the eye that is not publicized or celebrated. And it's difficult for me to ask more of the team, because they're already putting in 100-hour weeks. Proverbially, at least, people are working really, really hard. So we need to rebalance. And the best way to rebalance is to make the process easier, which brings me back all the way to authorizability. The more authorizable the care networks are, the less friction there is, the faster we can launch networks, the more configurable they are, the more countries we can launch them in, the more modifiable they are, the more personalized we can make it for grandma. We will have meteoric rise, both in terms of solved utility, care wallet downloads, and number of networks in the market. So there is no one thing that bothers me, but I know what needs to be done. I feel that 2023 is going to be an incredible growth year for us, not because I want it to be, but because it is. We have clients, we have network pipeline, we have the platform, we have the base care card enhanced, we have the protocol, we have a steady stream of inquiries for new networks, We have our backlog of old networks to bring them onto the protocol, starting with GTHE. And as soon as we make that decision on when that reauthoring begins, we will let you all know. But it's pretty much set in my mind that we are going to reauthor GTHE and launch it in 2023 as an on-protocol network, interacting with every other on-protocol network that is being authored, which will make us an incredibly powerful company in terms of value to the patient and the doctor. So I'm excited. I know the work is a lot of work ahead, but this is a different kind of work. What we've been doing for the last 5 years is building the platform. What we're looking to do in the next 5 years is build a ton of networks on the platform. It's a very different kind of work. It's a very different kind of a risk-reward ratio, and it's a very gratifying work because people can touch and use and feel and complain and like and dislike and tell you what they don't like about the network or the card or the wallet. This is a very different kind of game. Now that we have entered finally we have reached the tipping point where we can now simply be focused on authoring a ton of networks. Platform will keep getting enhanced, wallet will keep getting enhanced, protocol will keep getting enhanced, but it's a network authoring that's a tipping point for us. So 2023 is a year of the networks. And the more networks we launch, the more utility we see, the more revenue we generate, the more happier our community and our clients will be. So that's why I go into 2023 saying, let's fire on all cylinders, but with a very different focus. It's around delivery, account management, sales, and ensuring that we are giving the client the ability to reauthor and self-author as much as they can or are willing to. And let's make sure that we have a whole diversity of clients and whole diversity of networks in the market so that we end up with not 10 diabetes care networks, but 10 networks covering all top 10 diseases, and then the next 20 and the next 20, so that over time and very quickly, we become the combination of Amazon of healthcare and Visa of healthcare. Because those two things is what we need to do to become the place where every client wants to be. And the more clients we have, the more consumers will come naturally. We can either first build up the supply or we can build up the demand. Demand is always there in healthcare. So all we have to do is to focus on building the supply. So that's where we are. Let's see if there are any more questions. 5 best wishes, hopes, and prayers for the company, platform, client, and community. Tell us what they would be. So in terms of the company, I would ask for a robust management team to be in place as soon as possible so that there is no one single resource who can tip the company. I don't want to be the point of risk where me or any other person whose presence or absence can take the company into a bad state. So reducing the key man risk and having a full-blown management team in place, not bureaucratic overhead, but where everybody has a role and everybody knows how to work with everybody else is critical. So we're missing 1 or 2 people there. On the platform side, I would look for more robust, easier, faster authoring of a network, taking us to a point where very complex networks can be authored fast. And I think we are there in terms of simple to medium complexity, but the really complex networks, we need to push harder on the protocol and on the base care card class. On the client side, I would look for top 30 disease conditions that impact humanity. In fact, those 30 disease conditions probably touch 6 billion people out of 7.5, 8 billion people we have on the planet. The idea being that once we have diversity of networks through a diversity of certified health institutions, we are the Amazon of healthcare. In terms of community, I want you to all to learn how to author care cards, care journeys, and care networks, and go change healthcare in your corner of the world. It doesn't matter to me whether you build a care network for 100 patients or 100 million patients. I want you to be able to author care networks in your community, for your country, for your health system, and to make money from it. And we will, of course, make money as well. But more importantly, and equally importantly, we'll change healthcare in every part of the world, one part of the world at a time. So those would be my 5 wishes. I'll recap them. Company to have a robust and proper management team in place. The platform to be more authorable. The clients to cover all 30 major disease conditions, and the community to start making money from authoring networks on our platform. Let's see. I'm going to check in with the team to see if there are any other questions that were posted while I was talking. So Solve team, do we have any questions that need to be answered? Okay. So one other thing that I want to bring up to your attention is that we have published the Treasury release schedule. I want you all to make sure that you have it, because at the end of each year, we'll be rebalancing the Treasury against the release schedule. And if you don't have it, please ask the admins to republish it. By end of the year or early next year, we'll rebalance Treasury per the approved and pre-published schedule. So please take a look and make sure you understand it. If you have any questions, send them to us. The second question that came up is, what have been the achievements for 2022? There have been many. The achievements of 2022, the first and foremost is we made some very key hires. We have built out the team that can now handle growth. We have managed through a massive crisis in Ukraine, both for our people and for our company. And we have done well, where most companies would have struggled and probably did struggle. But for us, it has been a very challenging year that we overcame with grace and with humor and with intensity of work, and survived and grew in a period that was very challenging. Third, we moved the product very, very far along. The 2022 was a year of maturity of the care platform, which you've heard a lot about today. The fourth, we did a lot of work in Ukraine to support people who are less fortunate than us. I'm very proud of that. It was a massive accomplishment, particularly given the fact that we were all hit by the crisis at the same time, but we did enormous amount of work to support thousands of women and children, not only kept them alive, fed them, but also gave them a hope and a restart in their life. And we did that while maintaining our focus on healthcare. The other achievement that I see is that we have really re-engaged with the community, and I have made a commitment to the community to be very available. Of course, it's not possible to talk to you every day, but I am going to keep my promise to be very regularly engaged through AMAs with you all. That was a tough thing to do given the workload, but we have pulled that off, and I'm glad that we have fallen into a pattern of doing regular AMAs. And I think the last but the most important achievement is that we have a huge network of huge pipeline of networks going into 2023, and a lot more networks that we will add to the pipeline during the course of the year. And that's the best place to be. If you have people who really want your platform, like it, want to use it, want to build networks and launch it on your platform, then we have achieved what every other blockchain company looks for, but doesn't want to put in the hard work. Everybody wants a quick launch with a big, huge adoption. And while some companies achieve that, most companies don't. And I never wanted to bet the company on some one trick pony, some solution that works for a while and then stops being relevant, and suddenly we stop being relevant. Our diversity and strength of our platform makes us relevant, whether it's an inflationary period or a deflationary period, whether we are serving one jurisdiction or the other, whether we're dealing with this disease condition or the other, it doesn't matter. So we have very sustainable long-term platform solution, which will survive war and inflation and hyperinflation and political and geopolitical chaos, because healthcare is ultimately a fundamental human right, and we are making it easier for people who deliver healthcare and people who need healthcare to bridge on our platform. And nobody does it the way we do. Not Epic, not Cerner, not McKesson, not Athena, not Teladoc, not anybody does what we do, because they all have a point solution. They solve a specific problem. We can solve any problem. It's only up to the client's imagination as to what patient population, what disease condition, what jurisdiction, what business process flow, what clinical care model they want to launch on our platform. And they can do that just like that now with the authoring. So this is a platform like none other. And the fact that we are now where we can calmly and clearly say we are a platform like none other, I think is the greatest achievement of 2022. With that said, everyone, have a great holiday season. We are going to open the year very strong. January 3rd, we are going into a deep development summit on the platform and on the networks for 2 weeks, where all the major players in the company will be together working on making sure that our network authoring and our platform roadmap are already in place and flying fast. So 2023, we get out of the gate fast, and we deliver tremendous results for everyone. So we are not going to take a long holiday season. We literally are going to get to work on the 3rd of January with a very aggressive agenda. So we'll be talking to you. We'll be keeping you all informed. Have a great holiday season. Have a wonderful new year. And remember that every single day, life is a gift. So make the most of it. No matter what our challenges are, the fact that we are here, the fact we can love and laugh and do things, and the fact that we have the abilities and opportunities that each one of us has, that's a matter of great pride and gratitude for all of us. So enjoy your time with your families. Have a wonderful holiday season. I look forward to speaking to you all early next year. Take care. Have a good day.